Hi! In this video we're going to work with C# and we're going to demonstrate how to use the while loop. The program that we're going to create is called the loan calculator, and you can see it here on the screen. So that's coming right up. So in this program, the while loop is the key feature. So let's take a look at what we're going to code in just a few minutes. So you can see that inside of this code here, there's a statement that says while count is less than or equal to months. And so this is the new material perhaps for you, is where we're going to do a repetitive statement where something is done multiple times based on the input that the user gives us. So here on the screen I have the program in its finished state. So here's how we're going to do it. We're going to type in a number such as $100, and we're going to calculate the number of months for our loan and then the interest rate. So I have just a 0.5% listed here. And when I choose calculate, you can see that we have month 2 all the way down through month 11, and the interest rate shows that it goes up every month. Let's clear this and try another value. So let's try $100 and let's do 10 months. And this time, instead of a 0.5%, let's go with 5% and calculate. And so that you can see the first month gets $105 for the value of the loan, and by the time we get to the end, we've accumulated $62.89 in interest. So that's the program as it stands in the finished state. Let's get started on making it now step by step. So here's the layout that we're going for. You can see that I have 3 labels, 3 text box, a list box, a edit box with a read-only statement or a read-only property, and then 3 buttons. So if you want to go ahead and create the entire layout, you can, and then just advance through the video. But I'm going to show you how to put these in step by step and label each item. So stick with me if you're not sure what to do. Otherwise, create what you see on the screen and then jump ahead. Okay, so let's create a new project. So let's go to File and New and choose Project. And then I'm going to choose a Winforms project that I've done before using the .NET framework, and Next. I'm going to name mine as Loan Calculator, and as soon as I get my form up, I'm going to start putting the controls on. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is put the labels in place. So we're going to need 3 label objects. I'll just drag them out to approximately where they need to go. So we'll have label 1, label 2, and label 3. Then I'm going to name the text for each of these to be something unique. So it doesn't say label 1 anymore. So the first one is loan amount. So that's the text property. The next one is the number of months. And the third one is the interest rate. And then finally, I'm going to arrange these. So if I select all 3 of these labels, and if I find the alignment buttons at the top of the screen, I can make them perfectly aligned on the left side and then spread them out horizontally, or I'm sorry, vertically, so that they're evenly spaced. All right, the next thing is we need to put in text box controls. So we'll drag in 3 of these as well. Now, once I put them into place, I'm going to change their names. So the first text box will give it a name property of txt_loan amount. And then the second one is going to be the same process here. txt_ is my convention for any text boxes. And so that will be the number of months. Then the third is for the interest rate. And then lastly, I'm going to give this property the text property a value. So I'm going to put in a suggestion of 0.005. Now you can use any suggestion that you want for their interest rate, but that one seems to help the user figure out that this is supposed to be a decimal number and not some big number like a whole number. Next, let's slip in a text box, or a list box I should say. That's a control that's going to show all the months. So this one has to have some vertical height and some width as well. So it's a pretty big control. And then let's expand the form a bit and let's put in some buttons at the bottom. So 3 buttons will work here. Now the first button we're going to rename as Calculate. And we're going to name it BTN Calculate for its actual control name. For the text we can put in the word calculate. Then for clear, let's give this a label as clear, and then the button name is BTN_clear. And then exit is the third button. Now you can use these exact same names of course, because it'll work. But this is really up to you and your interpretation. So instead of calculate, if you want to put a different label on it, you can. And when you're done, you'll have a form that's pretty much ready to go. Now the last thing I forgot to do is name the actual Form 1. So let's go and change the text for Form 1 to a nice title. All right, so we've got all of the controls in place. Now it's time to start programming. So let's go into the Calculate button. This is really where all of the programming will occur. So we'll double click on Calculate and we'll see this click listener appear in the code. Now the first thing I'm going to do in my code is create 3 variables that are going to be used in the calculation. So we have 3 different text fields and we're going to assign a variable to each of those. So the first variable is called loan amount and it is of type decimal. We'll give it a default value of 0. Now when you create a decimal amount here, you need to put the letter M after it if it's a constant number. So you can just try putting 0 in here, but you'll probably see an error. The second is the number of months, and that is an integer. The third is an interest rate, and that is also a decimal. So all 3 of these values then will appear at the top of the class. So these would be called class member variables. They can be used in all of the functions inside of the form. That's their scope. So that's why I put them at the top. Now down in the button click handler, I'm going to assign these values to or from the controls that are on the form. So what I'd like to do is to take loan amount and tell it that that is equal to the text field, txt loan amount, and I want to get the text property. However, you notice as soon as I tell it that I want to assign this value, I have an error, a red line. Let's go check it out and see why. So when I hover over the txt amount, you can see the error. It says, I cannot implicitly convert type string to decimal. Now I can understand the decimal part. The loan amount is declared as type decimal above. So we're expecting a digit, with a number with a period in it. Now the part that says string is interesting because the text value of this text field is a type string. So that means a name, a bunch of letters. Even though we're expecting numbers to come in, we are getting it from the text value. So we need to do a conversion. So the conversion is going to come from a class called decimal. So decimal dot, and there are some options that we can use here, methods that can be used to manipulate the decimal. The one I'm going to try first is parse. So parse means take a string and try to interpret it as a number. Now this might not work. If somebody puts in their name or don't put a number at all, it'll probably cause the program to crash. But it's going to try anyway. So we're going to put a parse statement in here. Now just for testing purposes, I'm also going to show a message box and try to repeat to the user what they just typed. So let's test it out. So here's the app. It's up and running. Let's move it over here. And so it says the loan amount. Let's put in 999 and calculate. So it says you entered 999. It seems to have worked. Now let's see what happens if I put in something else. Like I'm going to put in the word Jim for like a name. Now I'll calculate it, and you can see that we have an error. It's crashed. The program stopped, and it says there was an exception thrown. So I put in something that was not a number, and the parse statement crashed. So that's an error that is unfortunate. We don't want that to happen. Now there are a couple of ways that we can fix this problem so the program doesn't crash. I'm going to show you 2 of them. So the first one is called a try-catch statement. So I'm going to put in the word try with brackets, and then the word catch with more brackets. So this is a system where we can try to do something inside the top, and if it doesn't work, then we'll put in something in the catch area. So I'm just going to leave some space there. Now I'm going to copy, or I'm going to actually just drag this statement. So drag this into the try area and indent. So this means attempt to do the parse. And then the catch means this will occur, this part of the statement will execute if there's a problem. So we can probably just give the user a heads up and say, hey, you made a mistake. So I'm going to put in a message box. So for the catch area, I'm going to say message box show and tell the user that you should enter a number here. Now let's see what this does. So let's go ahead and try the number again. So I'll try 999. Calculate, and I get the message that says you entered 999. So let's put in some text now, so I've got ASDF in there. And so then this time we get a message that says here, please enter a number here. So the program didn't crash. And we've got ourselves a little bit of an error check. So I'm going to go and add the other two values that are in our loan calculation. So the second one is called number of months. Now, instead of choosing decimal.parse, I'm going to choose int.parse. Can you guess why? Well, if you guessed because the number of months is of integer type, then you were correct. So int.parse serves the same purpose as we did earlier. And then the last item here is called interest rate. And so interest rate is also taken from the form, the text input. And so we'll do a parse on text of interest rate. Now, all three of these things are in the try block. So if any one of them fails, the catch block will then trigger. Now at the message box below, I'm going to increase the message so we can see all three values. So we'll say how much they put in for the loan amount, the number of months, and the interest rate. So that should be a full test now. Let's go ahead and run the app. Okay, we got the app running. So let's put some numbers in here. So let's put in 99 and I'll put in 7 months and leave this number here and calculate. There it is. It says I have 99 months, 7 days, and the rate is 005. Let's make a mistake now. So for one of these, I'm just going to put in some numbers again, or letters, and calculate. And now I have a message that says, please enter a number. So the 7 is left over from the last time I ran the app, and that will change if I update it here. So let's put in a 9 and calculate, and now you see the months is 9. Okay, so that is one way that you can do the try catch. So here's the alternative for if you want to use a different syntax. You get the same results. So instead of using try and catch and using the parse statement, I'm going to erase the try catch, and I'm going to change the parse statement to something called tryparse. And so tryparse will allow you to tell it which item you're trying to parse, and then the second parameter in this function is called an out parameter. And so it will automatically assign loan amount to be whatever was in the text box. So we're getting the same results. We're going to do this with the int tryparse for the number of months, and then we'll try tryparse with the interest rate. So all three of these things should do the exact same function that they did before. Next, I'm going to put in some if statements, because each of these tryparse statements returns a value, a true or a false. It will return a true if it were successful. It will return a false if it fails. And so the first statement is if the tryparse returns a loan amount, if that succeeds, then we will go on to another if statement. This is called a nested if statement, and we'll check to see if the number of months then succeeds. If that succeeds, then we can go on and try the interest rate. So if all three of these succeed, then we will be inside 3 levels of an if, and we will be able to continue on. Now it looks to me like I put in a semicolon here, and I'm going to erase that. And so that way we have the error go away. All right, so now inside of here, we can say success. We know that we have all 3 values that are assigned. So the last 3 minutes here or so are totally optional. You can put in a try parse or simply a parse and use a try catch statement around it. Either one of these should work. So now that we have a success and we're guaranteed that we have 3 valid numbers, let's go ahead and calculate the loan. So to calculate the loan, I'm going to start a new variable, and I'm going to initialize it with the value 0. It's called counter. You can call it C, you can call it count, you can use any name you want, but counter makes sense here. And then after the counter, we're going to start a while loop. So looping means we're going to repeat the process. We're going to repeat whatever's inside these curly brackets for as many times as necessary until the counter is equal or greater than the number of months. Or we're going to continue while counter is less than the number of months. So that's why it's called a while loop. It will do this while the condition is true. Now it looks to me like the indenting can be fixed here, so I'm going to just tab over, and that way this bracket and this bracket are less indented than the others. So inside the while loop, we're going to do the calculations now. So I'm going to make the formula say loan amount now equals the loan amount plus a little bit more. plus how much more? Well, we're going to have the interest rate added on. So it'll be the loan amount times the interest rate. So this will increase the loan by 0.005%. Now, after the loan amount is calculated, I want to add it to the list box. So we'll have the listbox 1 item, and we'll change the items.add so we can add a new line to it. And the string is going to be at month counter, the counter variable. The loan is a certain amount. So then we have counter equals counter plus 1, and so this should add amount of money to the loan calculator. Let's try it out. Okay, so I got the money here. Let's try $100, and let's go for 10 months, and we use this 0.005, calculate. All right, so we've got ourselves this pop-up message. I don't need that anymore. But look here, the loan amount is calculated. It goes from $100 all the way up to $105. Let's try this again. So I'm going to kill the program and relaunch it and try new values. Okay, we got it running again. So I'm going to put in $100, and this time for the interest rate, I'm going to put in a 0.1. So that is 10% interest. Let's go ahead and see what that does. And so you can see that the $10 is at the first month, and by the time I get after 10 months, it's $259. So the interest rate grows quite quickly there. Now we've got some other issues here, like the formatting is kind of strange, all these decimal numbers out here, and the clear button and the exit button don't work, and then I also don't have a summary at the bottom. So I'm going to fix that up next. So let's go back into the code, and the loan amount I can change to a simple fix. I'm going to use two strings. So I'm going to put a .toString at the end, and that will change it from a number to a string automatically. Now there is a secret parameter, not really secret, but it's a tricky one. You can put in a letter C in there, so that would be for currency. So that should change this into a $sign. Okay, I got it running again. Let's put in some number, 110, or let's put in 20 and calculate. And look at there, we've got ourselves currency now. So it automatically put the $sign and decimal point and round it off to the hundredths place. So that seemed to work nicely. Now I need some final answers at the bottom. So let's switch back into the design, and I'm going to expand the form a bit and move this down so the buttons are a little bit lower. All right, above the buttons, I'm going to insert two new controls. So I'll put in a label, and for the label text, I will say this is the final value. Then next to the label, let's drag in a text box. So the text box can be named as txt final value as well. So now let's change one thing here. This property is set right now where I can add numbers to this thing, but I want to make it read-only. So let's see if there is something in here for read-only. Sure enough, there is a value called read-only. I can double-click on false or simply check the menu here. So read-only is true, will not allow me to enter any values in there, but it'll still keep the little black rectangle around the edge. Let's go and change the program again. Go back into calculate. And let's scroll to the bottom. So I'm tired of seeing this message box pop up. I'm going to take him out. So you can just comment him out or delete him, either way. And then after the final result, so after the while loop is done, we are done with the while loop here. So when we reach the end of the while loop, we can then update the value of that last text box. So we need to make sure that we're done with a while loop before we do this, because that's just the final answer. So I'm going to set the final value equal to the loan amount, and I'm going to use the toString method again and use the letter C for currency. Now you can see I've got an issue here. It says, what did you forget to do? It says I cannot implicitly convert the string of the loan amount. I cannot convert that to a text box. Well, the text box isn't really what I want to convert it to. I want to convert it to the property of text. So let's put in a period here and say the text property now gets that string. So that is valid. The other one was not. Okay, we're ready to run. So let's go ahead and put in a really big number this time. I'm going to try $900, and I'm going to run it for 400 months, and let's see what happens. All right, so we've got ourselves a really long list. And we go all the way down to $399, and you can see that the total result was $6,617. Now we're missing the clear button. That doesn't work yet, and the exit button. So let's fix those now. So for the clear button, I'll double click on this, and this is pretty simple. Okay, for the code for the clear button, we're simply going to set the text property of all of the text boxes to empty string, so just quotation marks. So the final value, the interest rate, the loan amount. Now when we get to the list box, if I want to clear that out, I have to use a different little statement. It's going to be listbox1.items.clear. Now the other control that I want to modify is the exit command. And so we'll double click on exit. The function that you want to exit the program is the word this, which refers to the application. This.close means close this class. This class is the form 1. And so that should close and clear. Let's see if it works. So I'm going to put in a value. Let's do 80, 10 months, and calculate. Now when I push clear, they all clear out. Oops, it looks like I forgot one. Did the number of months stay at 10? And that's an easy one to fix. Go ahead and fix up the number of months, so that will be cleared as well. And I think I'm ready to go now. So if I do a big interest rate, you can see that the value goes up quite quickly, 10 times its value each month. So obviously I need a decimal. Let's go 0.1 for 10%, and that looks a little bit better. Whoops, clear it first and try it again. All right, so the key learning here is this while loop. So we have computed a value of the interest rate while a counter was less than a certain value. So what would happen if you forgot to put in this thing here, counter equals counter plus 1? Let's just double check what that would do. If I took that out, the counter will never increase. It will start at 0, it will stay at 0, and this while loop will never end. So, well, that would be an infinite loop, wouldn't it? Let's see if it works, or actually, let's see if it doesn't work. That would be the more accurate way. So let's put in some numbers here. It's supposed to stop after 10 months, right? Now we calculate it, and nothing happens, except I can't click anything. My mouse stopped, and now I have an error. It says the value is either too large or too small for a decimal. Well, I would guess too large is probably it, because this thing went on in an infinite loop. The counter number here is obviously important. We need to add 1 each time we go through the loop. And if you forget to do that, your loop will continue forever. While statements don't automatically end unless you code them correctly. Okay, so there's a while statement. That's a good one to start with. The next application that we're going to create will demonstrate another loop. Instead of the while loop, it'll be called a for loop. And it works similarly, but it has other features. So we'll catch you in the next few minutes.